am Ray, and by the time you finish this video, you will learn how to never struggle with money again. And you can buy all the bananas you like. You like bananas? Now we gotta get something straight, okay? This is about truly living in abundance, no matter what. Doesn't matter what the external circumstances say. Doesn't matter what the economy says. If you try and focus on, well, what's the next best online business to start? Well, sometimes the business goes away. But you have to be the money printing machine. You have to be the cause of your reality. Because so long as you're reacting to things that happen to you, then you always risk returning back to lack and scarcity and struggle. Because the moment that life isn't going exactly the way you want it to, you're going to be like, wait a minute, this is not going well. Fall back into struggle. And think about it, most people, their solution to problems is to work more, work harder, because that's the solution. That's what's going to get me the results, right? Right? Mr. Mouse, tell them the truth.
You have been fooled.
And how exactly have they been fooled, Mr. Mouse?
Because the mouse that is a chef gets all the cheese they want. And a mouse in the basement gets no cheese. They get scraps.
Well put. What a metaphor. What Mr. Mouse is trying to say is that your identity determines what you attract. You either identify as a sewer rat going swimming through poop, or you are Ratatouille, a chef mouse in a 5-star restaurant. You see, you're not going to like to hear this. But all struggle in this life is self-imposed. Now, how can this be? Because obviously you ask anyone, hey, do you like to struggle? Do you want more struggle? They would say no. But think about it like this. You say what you love by what you focus on. Because that is what you're giving your life to. You give your life to what you focus on. And you don't give your life to things that aren't meaningful, that aren't important to you. And if you just look at most people, what are they focused on? They're focused on struggling all the time. It's like the people who say, I don't like drama, but all they talk about is drama. Well, they're saying one thing with their words, but their actions betray those words. So too, you can say all day long you don't like to struggle. But if you're focusing on struggling, there's a part of you that likes it. And that part of you is your ego. Because the ego gets a sense of self around this story about struggling, about this is hard, I don't like this. You get to feel, well, a little bit like a victim. Like something else is imposing its will upon you, and there you are, just a little victim, little innocent victim. You have done nothing wrong. Why have you been put into this capitalist society where you have to slave away for money? Why can't you just do art? I just want to play with my crayons and make drawings. We get into these psychological stories about ourselves and about what we're going through. And we build our whole life around those stories, not realizing that it is those stories that are keeping us in that situation. Not the other way around. Or at the very least, you could say it's a co-creation. Life is happening to you, you're reacting to life, you're creating or reinforcing something. And just think about it in your life. Do you have an identity about struggling or being broke? Really take a moment to reflect upon the weight of your sins. When you wake up in the morning, what stories are you telling yourself about the life that you're living? Are you focusing on all the things going wrong and how much life sucks and how much it's a struggle and how much you can't do what you really want to do because you're forced to do what you don't want to do? And you might say, well, that's just the truth. It's just the truth of what I'm going through. It's actually what is happening. So I don't get what you're saying, bead man. Funny man with a robe and beads and bananas. You almost forgot the bananas. Here's the issue with that. I'm not sure if you've heard of the universe, but it's balanced. It's equally balanced between negativity and positivity. How do we know this? Because they're just two opposites of the same one thing. There's no separation between negativity and positivity. You can't have up without down. You can't have in without out. You can't have darkness without light. What does this mean? It means that imbued in the very fabric of reality is infinite negativity everywhere. And also, imbued within the fabric of reality, there's infinite positivity everywhere. No matter what you do, your mind can either focus on the infinite scarcity that is always present, or it can focus on the infinite abundance that is always present. But what you focus on is determined by your ego identity. So if you're focusing on all the lack and scarcity in your life, you will never see the abundance that is already present. So too, once you identify as an abundant person, you stop looking at the lack and scarcity. So you stop creating more of it. You stop reinforcing these negative stories because fundamentally they aren't aligned with who you are anymore. Once you feel abundant, once you're like, yes, this is who I am, I'm living in abundance now, those stories can't survive in your brain. And it's as Myron Golden once said, successful people don't try to succeed any more than failures try to fail. It's an identity thing. Who you are determines the life that you experience and nothing else. And it doesn't matter what you think is going on. It doesn't matter what the evidence tells you. Life, this world was made for dreamers and artists, not rational people with their logic. In fact, people who use logic all the time, only logic, not that reason and logic is bad, of course it's good. But people who only use those things, they suck the magic out of life. Now let's paint a picture about what has to be undone. So we have an identity that forces us to reinforce all of these negative stories about our life, about struggling, about money. And that causes negative experiences. If you want to keep it practical, the negative experiences arise simply because that's what you're focusing on. And even if a positive experience arises, you're focusing on the negativity of that. So you got a few problems. You got a negative identity if you're struggling with money. And you got negative circumstances that makes you feel bad. And most people think, well, I have to change the circumstances in order to feel better about myself. And until my circumstances change, well, how am I going to live in abundance? But that's not how life works. Life works for the slaves like that. Because, well, what do you have to do? You have to grind your life away in order to change your circumstances. Struggle. Which is the opposite of what this video is about. It's about doing the opposite. It's about putting things in their proper place, prioritizing what actually matters. That is not your actions. It's not what you do. Because if the people who worked hard were rewarded the most, it's like they say, the donkey would own the farm. That's not how it works. In fact, if you have this identity about working hard, that could actually work against you. Because your solution to the problem is struggle. It's like you got all these bills to pay. What are you going to do about it? Well, you got to work hard now. Now you got to do more. If that's your only solution, if that's what you think that works, that is what you are going to use. And you're not going to be paying attention to the other easier things to do that can solve the problem. So the most important thing is that your identity determines what you focus on, and your external circumstances are irrelevant, because life is equally balanced between abundance and lack and scarcity. Your mind can make a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. Now, here is how we change our identity. Now, we got two systems. We got the conscious mind and we got the unconscious mind. The conscious mind is the intelligence of our brain, and the unconscious mind is the intelligence of our body. The conscious mind speaks the language of patterns or symbols, and the unconscious speaks the language of feelings. Now, I want you to imagine the conscious mind like a cowboy riding a horse, and the horse is the unconscious mind, and both these two act as one. Now, what do you think happens when the horse wants to go this way, but the cowboy wants to go this way. Can you imagine? Struggle. Fighting. This is the only reason we struggle in life. With anything. Because you, as the cow person, wants to go a certain way, but your body is afraid. Because there's trauma associated with that direction that you're going. For example, Mr. Mouse, I'm going to have to ask you to move. If the pattern is money, and you've had a lot of negative experiences with money in the past, well, guess what those negative experiences are going to do? They're going to make you feel bad about it. So you got a negative feeling about money. And what this causes you to do, that no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you try, every time you try to receive abundance and save and do this and do that, you'll always return back to the default. Your unconscious will sabotage your life in order to keep you safe. Because it's associating this pattern with fear, fight or flight, and the main purpose of your body is to keep you alive. So, for example, in the caveman days, if you received a whole lot of resources in abundance, if you could not protect those resources, some other cave monkeys would come along, beat you with a big club, take all your stuff. And so, if your unconscious mind perceives you to be like a scavenger animal, living in scarcity, living in poverty, struggling to survive, it will not allow you to rise up to the top of the hierarchy, because you don't belong there, and someone who does belong there is just going to kill you and take all of your stuff. That is what the unconscious mind is thinking. That is why every time you try to live in abundance, whatever that means, something always goes wrong. You will always self-sabotage yourself because the unconscious is trying to keep you safe. Now, anytime you feel strongly about something, your system does what I call the screenshot effect. Like, you know, the two buttons on your phone? One button is the pattern, the other button is the feeling. And together they create a screenshot of that moment, that experience. And that information is stored in your body for later. Imagine a vinyl disc, you know, with like the music. The pattern is the song, but the feelings are the grooves that imprint the song into the vinyl disc. So, you have the conscious identity. The version of you that you can consciously control. Because right now you can think literally whatever you want. You can think of a pink elephant. You can think of a pink banana. You can think of literally a pink mouse with a chef hat on. Your imagination is limitless. But your unconscious identity is the accumulation of all of those snapshots that have been taken during your life. It's like a vast library of all of this different information that comes together to make what your unconscious understands as you. In this case, we're just taking out one book called Money. And now we are going to rewrite that book. Because once the cowboy and the horse are going in the same direction, what do you think happens? Effortless success. Because the horse was doing all the heavy lifting in the first place. The cowboy is just riding, just having a good time, enjoying it. But if it's fighting the horse over and over again, the horse is misbehaving. That's not fun. That's a life full of struggle. So the first thing that has to be done is that you have to consciously make a decision and decide who you want to be. And you can be anyone. Doesn't matter. Your only limitations are the limitations that you impose upon yourself. Like if you say, well, it's not possible. Well, it won't be possible. Congratulations, you played yourself. Or if you say, I can't do it. Well, nope, you can't do it. You played yourself. It doesn't matter if you say you can or you say you can't. It will be true for you because that is what you're focusing on. You will either focus on all the ways it's not possible or you will ignore all of the roadblocks and focus on the 1% chance that it's going to work and you will make it work. You are the deciding factor, not just circumstances. Now, if you're like 5'3" and you want to play in the NBA, maybe you should think about it a little bit more. Find something that's more aligned with your stature. But the good news is that when you experience something that you don't like, that you don't want, you at the same time understand exactly what you do want. So you don't necessarily need to know exactly what you want. You just need to focus on the things that you don't want that you're already experiencing. And you say, okay, I'm experiencing this. I don't want this. What's the opposite? I'm struggling with money. Okay, I don't want to struggle anymore. I want to be abundant. I don't want to have to struggle my life away for money. It's not worth anything in the first place. So, okay, this is the identity that I decide that I'm going to embody. And now that you've changed your ego identity, you're now going to focus on new evidence. Because now you're playing a new story in your head. Now you're focusing on new information, new stuff that is now building this new conscious identity. And all you have to do is persist. Because, well, guess what's going to happen? The old identity in your unconscious that was created from your own old conscious identity, that makes sense. That unconscious identity is going to arise and say, no, this is not who you are, this is who you are. You're living in lack and scarcity, you're living in poverty, you cannot be living in abundance, you cannot be having this. And you, as the conscious mind, have to tell that horse, there, it's all good. Nope, this is where we're going now. Just relax, no need to fight anymore. This is the direction we're going in. And every time the horse gets afraid and says, no, you just relax. And you don't yell at it, you don't struggle. You speak the language of feelings. Now, what does this look like practically? It means that, well, you're in the checkout counter, buying your groceries, buying your bananas. And you're like, oh no, I think I bought too many bananas. The thoughts come up automatically because automatic negative thoughts come from your unconscious. And in that moment, you get to decide, am I going to reinforce the old story, the old me, or am I going to reinforce the new me? As it said, a story once told, we all got two wolves inside of us, and they hungry. A dark wolf and a light wolf. And the one that wins is the one you feed. And the one you feed determines how racist you are. Okay, ignore that last part. But it's true. You got the old self, you got the new self, you in the present moment. Either feed the old self or the new self. That's step number one. All you got to do is make the choice to change. You have that choice right now. You can make it by the end of this video. You can literally just say, I'm going to live in abundance now. Done. You haven't... What else is there to do? Then your mind might come along and say, well, there's a whole bunch of... It doesn't matter. Just make the decision. Say, I'm going to be rich now. This is what I want. You got to get clear on what you want. If you can't stand on your own 2 feet and say, this is what I want and this is who I'm going to be, well then, the old identity will just come along and say, no, this is who you are. Remember, put you back in your place at the bottom. And if you don't say, no, that's not where I'm going, well then, you'll just take the path of least resistance, fall to that. Stay stuck. And you see that happen all the time with people. They stay at the bottom because they don't decide that they want anything more. Because the moment you decide you want more, you can no longer stay at the bottom and live with yourself. So once you change the conscious identity, now you know what you do want and now you know what you don't want. And moving forward, all you gotta do to find effortless success is have more positive experiences with money or whatever pattern, but this is about money. Every time you feel good about money, you're reprogramming that unconscious identity, and the horse feels more and more relaxed, more and more comfortable to say, okay, I'm ready to live in abundance. I was afraid before, and the great news is the horse is blind. The unconscious knows nothing other than what you as the conscious mind feed it. Imagine the conscious mind as the masculine and the unconscious as the feminine. The feminine just receives you as the conscious mind. So what are you impregnating the unconscious with? Seems a bit strange. But it's literally how it works. You're implanting seeds into your unconscious all the time that will be born in your life as your experiences. So you have to be very careful about the thoughts that you think and the words that you speak and what you choose to focus on. Because every time you're focusing on something, you're telling life, I want more of this. It's like God only knows the word yes. It's like if you say to yourself, I hate my life, I'm struggling, I don't like this, I don't like that. God says, well, that is what you're going to get. You must love it because you're focusing on it, right? If you didn't love it, you wouldn't be focusing on it. If you didn't want more of it, why would you focus on something you don't want more of? And the moment you start saying, well, I love being rich and being in abundance and having all my needs taken care of and not having to worry, and God's like, yeah, okay, we'll give you more of that then. Make up your mind. That is why in a mad world, the realists lose. Because you can say all day long that I'm just being real. I'm just looking at the facts. But if you only focus on what you already have, you're only going to get more of just the same. Because you focus on the negativity, you feel negative, you continue to reprogram or reinforce your unconscious identity of negativity, keeping yourself stuck. It does you no good when you can use your imagination to literally imagine anything and feel, well, you can feel as if it's real now. It's like in the dream state. When you're dreaming, you forget about your worldly life, and what you're dreaming about feels like it's the most real thing. Your body doesn't know the difference between what is true in the outer world and what is true in your imagination, because there is no difference. It's all one life, all one reality. And people stay a slave to a life they don't like because they are a slave to their senses. They're attached to this animal body, this mind, that is completely invested in its outer experience. And so, therefore, is it no wonder that people live in fight or flight? A problem arises, immediately they focus on it, they feel fear, feel worry, oh no, what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this happens? Keeping them stuck. Hemorrhaging their resources, hemorrhaging their energy towards short-term survival. And then they don't have the energy to do anything about it. This is what people don't realize. You are completely in control of your life, and there is nothing that can enslave you other than your own thoughts. You are the creator of reality, and you have forgotten your power. And those who don't know their power, they got no power. The price of ignorance is slavery and death. And it's really not that complicated. Because when you're out in the checkout line buying your bananas, in that moment, you can consciously think whatever you want. If a negative thought comes up and says, I'm spending too much, and you feel your cheeks contract, you're like, ah! Well, in that moment, you can relax through your thoughts and tell yourself, it's all okay. It's all okay, no worries. Everything's going to work out perfectly. It's all good. And you find your shoulders are slowly starting to go down. Your cheeks relax. Now you stop feeding that old identity. The unconscious learns to relax. Look, this is not something to worry about anymore. It's all good. And you can simply say, well, I am so grateful that I have the money at all to buy the groceries. You can focus on the negative or you can focus on the positive. Both will be true for you. And guess what? It takes a little bit of effort in the beginning. But this is the most effortless way to change. Because you're no longer focusing on grinding to get a result. You're focusing on changing who you are. Because the most abundant version of you naturally thinks abundantly, naturally takes abundant action. You don't gotta worry. The results take care of themselves if you focus on the underlying cause. You. You will always be the bottleneck to your experiences. Focus on the priority that matters. Stop focusing on the results that will go and go and go. Doesn't matter. Once you receive some money, you spend it, you got to go get more. It's a never-ending hamster wheel. But if you become the money printing machine, then everything else is irrelevant. Use your conscious thoughts to feel good about money over and over and over again until it's natural, until you think positive thoughts naturally. And every time a negative thought comes, that's an opportunity. It's not a problem. A little bit of anxiety arises. It's not a problem. You can look at it like a problem. Oh no, I'm going to reinforce the negative identity. I don't want this. I don't want this. You have to remember your power. That you get to choose. There's nothing wrong with negative thoughts and anxiety and negative emotions and fear and worry. Your resistance to these things is the problem. Because every moment some fear arises, that is the opportunity to reprogram your unconscious. You feel that fear. You don't resist it. You don't run away from it. You just sit with it. And that dissolves it. You're teaching that horse not to react to that pattern anymore. Because right now, it feels, this is dangerous. This is dangerous. So the moment it arises, it starts freaking out, running all over the place. So you have to tame it. There, it's all good. No worries. And you will enter into an upward spiral of positivity because you'll start to see evidence of, oh, wait a minute. Abundance is actually flowing to me now. So you focus on that. You make it feel better. There's more opportunities to reprogram your unconscious. Literally, the easiest way to do this is just to react positively to what you are already experiencing, rather than, repeating affirmations in the mirror all day. It's like you're going to go through experiences, things are going to happen. And naturally, sometimes you're going to feel good, every once in a while. And in that moment which you feel good, that is when you repeat the thoughts. Because that is when your body presses record. So it's like if you receive some extra money, don't just allow that experience to go to waste. Because it will come and it will go. Pause, appreciate it, cultivate positive feelings so your body remembers, hey, this is good. And you will attract more situations like that. More situations to feel good about because you're telling God, you're telling life, hey, I appreciate this moment. This is amazing. I love this. Remember, you always create more of what you focus on. It's all about focusing on what you do want more than what you don't want. And you can't do that if you're so busy focusing on the so-called evidence of your outer reality. Instead of getting pulled all over the place, you have to remain in stillness and consciously choose with your mind, this is the reality I am now living. And reality, the outer reality, will bend to you, or you will bend to it. It's the only two options you got. What would you like, freedom or slavery? And as you go along your journey, you're going to get more comfortable with this power. Because if you've never used it before consciously, of course it's going to take time. Of course you might fall back into old patterns and say, well. But it's just a process of remembering and saying, okay, well, I do have this power. And the more you feed that new story, the more solid that identity becomes. All you got to do is persist. Now, one last thing I want to leave you with is the golden rule of manifestation. As Jesus said, when you pray, pray as though what you want, you have already received. Let me see, I think he said it more elegantly. Jesus said, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. The golden rule of manifestation. Whatever it is that you believe with 100% certainty, you believe it into existence. Negative or positive. That's why they say fear is just a prayer for what you don't want. Now, here's the thing. If you believe something with 50% certainty, well, the chances of it manifesting in your life is only 50%. This is why, on the spiritual journey, we begin to connect to the source of all abundance, because we no longer place the burdens of figuring it all out upon ourselves, which messes with our energy. We surrender and have faith and don't worry about it anymore. Because the moment you stop worrying about it, the more you're not clenching your hands, and now they're open. You're open to receive. You have become a vessel for abundance. But if you are there trying to figure it all out, trying to control everything in your life, well, of course you're going to struggle. What do you expect? Literally, all you got to do, and it's too simple for most people. Nobody could believe that it was this easy, but fortunately it is. If you just believed with 100% certainty that everything was working out perfectly, and you forgot about it, you didn't worry about it, life would effortlessly manifest in all the ways you could ever desire. Because fundamentally, life, God, is already trying to give you everything. We are the ones sabotaging our blessings with our fear, with our worry, with our trying to control everything. The more you act like a little baby that doesn't know anything, and you give it all to God, God is your parent that is a billionaire, taking care of all your stuff. That is the moment where you become free forever. But it is pride that says, well, no, I want this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to force it to happen. And God's like, well, yeah, you can do that if you like, but, are you ready to bear the weight of your sins, the consequences? You can literally just call up God and say, hey, God, can I have this? Okay, thank you. I'm going to go on, move on with my life. And then guess what's going to happen? The little ego is going to come out and play and say, where's my stuff? Where are my big booty Latinas? I asked for these so long ago. It's been months. Where's my customer service button form thing that I can talk to God? God, you have not given me what I wanted. What is the meaning of this? And when that happens, you must know that your ego in that moment is sabotaging everything. Because by being frustrated and irritated that you're not getting what you want, you're giving off the energy of lack and scarcity. So you can only attract more of it. You're saying to life, hey, I don't have what I want. I don't have what I want. That's what you're focusing on. So you create more of that. Only when you become detached and surrender are you open to receive. And this is great news too, because if you were to get your ego desires, they would come with all kinds of baggage and problems. So you have to surrender the ego first. Surrender your attachments to those desires in order for you to receive them. Because think about a relationship, for example. You say, I want a relationship. Or let's say money, because that's what the video is about. I really want that bag, money, but it's not coming as quickly as you'd like. The problem is, even if you did receive the money, if you are not the individual that can hold and sustain it, it will make your life worse. That's not what you want. You don't care about the money fundamentally. It's just your ego desire. What you care about is becoming the individual in which abundance is effortless. Because then you're not trying to control outcomes. Then you're not attached to desire. Money will come, money will go, and you don't think about it twice. You don't worry about it. But to take the relationship example, if you get it prematurely, your fear and your worry will sabotage the relationship. And you will be worse off afterwards than you were before, because you attracted the right person, but you were not the individual to make it work. So we have to fundamentally reframe our attitude toward things and realize you don't actually want the thing. Like the money. You don't want the money, you want to be the money printing machine. And life, the moment you decide this is what I want, life will construct the exact situations for you to become that individual. And you have to be wise and realize that life is always taking care of you. So when the circumstances don't match up with your expectations, you have to remember, oh, it's my expectations that are the problem. Life is shaping me in this moment to the one who can receive what I desire. And it's not an obstacle, it's not a delay. It's actually working out perfectly. And think about what that does to your feelings. It immediately makes you feel better about your circumstances. So, no matter what happens, you always come out on top. You transmute the darkness into positivity through reframing your attitude, fundamentally, toward life. And you're not deluding yourself. You're just tapping into the truth that is already present, the positivity that is already there. Because when you struggle with some problem, you can either look at it as, woe is me, this sucks, I hate this, why am I going through this? Or you can see it as, this is exactly what I need in this moment to actually receive what I want. I'm one step closer to what I want. Now, how much better does that make you feel? One, you're further away from what you want. One, you're closer to what you want. And all of that is determined by your mind alone, by how you look at the situation. That is why faith and certainty is so important, because you will experience things that seem to be like roadblocks and problems. And if you do not have faith and certainty, you may give up and say, well, it's not working. I'm going to give up. I'm going to go back to McDonald's. At least there they treated me with respect. At least, nah, not even that. And even if you got a job you don't like right now, it doesn't matter. You can reframe your attitude and say, well, I can use this job while life takes care of whatever future possibilities are on the way. Because at least having a job is going to make you feel safe. It's going to make you feel secure. Not everyone has the emotional stability to just use their imagination to feel good all the time. Sometimes you need evidence to make you feel okay. Even if that's the only purpose. It's like you don't keep the job for the money. You keep the job so that you feel secure while your new life comes into fruition. And literally all you got to do, think about it. You replay the story in your mind over and over again that something amazing is on the way, a new job in which I get paid more than ever and I work as least as possible, or whatever the ratio is for you that you want. Maybe you like work, maybe you don't want to work and still receive all the money. You just play a new story with your imagination, and you feel it into existence. Seems kind of silly, doesn't it? But the more you replay that story again and again, the more you feel like it's true, and the more you feel certainty. You smile, you evoke positive emotions, you work yourself up into a positive state by focusing on what you do want. Things are working out perfectly. I can't wait. I'm so excited. A new job is on the way. My favorite job, the best job in the world. Amazing. Now when you're working on your poopy job, you're thinking about the good one that has yet to come, that you already feel is on the way. And every time some customer comes up and says, you're no good, you don't fight with them. Your mind says, oh, I can't wait for the new job. Every time something negative happens, use it as an opportunity to reinforce the story of what you do want instead of focusing on what you don't want. And the more certain you can become, the quicker reality changes for you. Remember, you will either bend to reality or reality will bend to you. And reality bends to certainty and faith. And you either have faith in what you do want or you have faith in what you don't want. You don't get the choice to not have faith. Because faith is just certainty. The choice is yours. I am Ray. Transform your life. Join the spiritual revolution. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.